Alright, so we are going to start our lecture on units of measure, which is chapter 7. So in this lecture we will talk about different units and then learn how to convert between the units, and also play around with units to solve a couple of problems and see how we can apply all the things that we learned here in real life. Okay, now again, I think we mentioned it before that in engineering discussion we have plenty of units. So it's important to understand how we convert between units, because sometimes you can represent the same thing in different units, but if you don't understand how to convert from one to other, you probably will not be able to compare between them, right? So we use a term called conversion factor to convert between units, okay? So it's actually a relationship between two units. So we use a conversion bar like this, horizontal line, and then write one at the top, meaning at the numerator, and other at the denominator. For an example, we know that 3 feet equals to 1 yard. Just from these, we make a conversion factor 3 feet over 1 yard. And the conversion factor is always equal to 1 because these two things are equal, even if they're in different units, okay? So based on, any of the equivalence, for an example, 5,280 feet equals to 1 mile, we make another conversion factor. We can pretty much make conversion factor based on different conversion factor based on different units. I'm saying unit conversions, okay? Now we'll see how we actually use this conversion factor to convert between units, okay? Now to convert between units, we actually identify the appropriate conversion factor, because we just want to know where we are going from where, right? From and to. So, and then we write down the numbers converted, including the units, being converted with the units, and then we multiply those with we write the conversion factor as fractions and then multiply with the conversion factor such that some factors get cancelled. For an example, let me show you some examples here. Let's say you want to know how many years we have in a mile. Okay, so we are trying to convert a mile to yard, right? Mile to yard. So that's why what we did is we just write 1 mile, and then we multiplied it by. So we first actually let's say we are given these two conversion factor. Okay. Now if you look at the first one, using this one you can go from mile to feet, and the next one you can again go from feet to yard. So you pretty much will need both of these factors. But look at how we are writing this. We just write 1 mile here, and then we wrote 5,280 feet over 1 mile. Now you might be wondering about which one will go to the numerator, which one will go to the denominator when you are writing the conversion factor, right? Because you can do both, right? Because it's the ratio, and the ratio will be always 1. But the reason we always do it in a specific manner, because we just want this mile and this mile get cancelled, so that they have to, I'm saying if one is at the numerator, other one must be in the denominator, so that they get cancelled. That's what I'm saying. Because we want to get rid of mile, right? We just want the year at the answer. Okay, now this is for the mile and feet. Now here in the next one, I again wrote another conversion factor between yard and feet. I wrote 1 yard over 3 feet. Again, if you look at more carefully, you see there is a feet here, and there is a feet here. I arranged it so that the feet and feet get cancelled as well. Because at the end, we just want the yard in the numerator position, right? That's what I'm saying? So because that's what we want at the answer. So technically, when the units gets cancelled, and then the only unit which you want will be left, that means you are doing it right, okay? And then once you do the math, because you just multiply 1 times 5,280 times 1, which is 5,280, and then at the denominator, you just have 3, right? 1 times 3 is 3, and then you'll be left with 1,760, and as you have seen, we also cancel out the units, right? So you'll be left with only years. So that's your answer. In the similar manner, we are trying to convert the 48 ounces to pounds. Again, we wrote 48 ounce. We know the ratio, I'm saying the conversion factor. We put the 1 pound here and 16 ounce here. 1 pound equals to 16 ounce, right? Again, the reason is we want this ounce and this ounce get cancelled. Because at the answer, we only want the pound, right? So once these two get cancelled, so you'll be left with only pound. Now if you do the math, 48 times 1 is 48. At the bottom you have 16. If you cancel this, you'll be left with only 3 pounds. Let's try a couple of quiz questions here. Let's say we are trying to convert weeks to hours. How many hours we have in 2 weeks, for an example? Okay, which might be the right conversion factor? Is the right answer B? No B? I think the right answer is B, right? No? You see the 2 weeks here, and then we know that 1 week equal to 7 days. So you see, we arranged it such that the week and week get cancelled, right? And again, we are converting from day to hour. We put the day at the bottom because so that the days and days get cancelled, right? And then we will be left with only 24 hours. Now we can do the math safely. We are not done with the math yet, but what I'm saying is you first have to arrange it appropriately so that your conversion works, right? Okay. Now once you do the math, you can see how much you get, right? I'm saying, you know, you can use your calculator. So it's just 2 times 7 times 24, right? It's probably 336 hours. So right answer is possibly D, right? Yeah. But make sure you arrange the conversion factor properly, right? So right answer is D. Okay, let's try another question here. 1,000 hours to week. Remember, in the answer, we just want the week left, right? Every other conversion factor should be cancelled. Which might be the right arrangement? Is the last one C? No? C is the right answer, right? C, 1,000 hour, and then here we have hour again. 1 day equals to 24 hour, and then again we cancel out the days. So we'll be left with only week, right, at the top. So right answer is C. If you do the math, 1,000 times 1 times 1, that's 1,000, and then at the bottom you will have 7 times 24, right? Can anyone divide and see how much is the answer, just in case? What? D? 5.95 week. Okay, so the right answer is D, right? I'm saying once you set it up, arrange it properly, then the math is simple. I'm saying how do you do the math? Yeah. And even just a reminder, when you go to the quiz section in the home to do your homework, you will see click. There is a help at the bottom of each question. Click it, you will see, I think that's called hints. Click it, you will see the conversion factors given, okay? Not the factors, all the relation, but most of the time we actually give you all the relations. We don't tell which one you need for this question. We'll give you like, let's say 20 or 15, all the relations. So you just have to find which one you need, okay? And then you can make your own, arrangement of conversion factors. Okay, now let's look at another one. Now we have a little bit more tricky than before because we have 2 units in one term. Because it's possible that in engineering discussion we have it, let's say 20 mile per hour. Now what we have here, if we actually have miles an hour, right? 20 miles per hour means 20 miles in 1 hour, right? We use it for the speed, right? So 20 miles per hour is written like 20 miles over hour. Now you want kilometer per hour. So actually you still want the hour, but you don't want the miles. So you can use the conversion factor for the miles here. So if I use the conversion factor for miles to convert it to kilometer, here, this is the conversion factor for mile and kilometer, okay? So if we use it, you can see the mile and mile get cancelled, right? And then you'll be left with, only the kilometer at the top and the hour at the bottom. But you have to be careful when you have multiple units like this. Make sure they're in the right order, because it has to be kilometer per hour, right? That means kilometer must be at the top, meaning the numerator position, and the hour must be left at the denominator position, right? So the right answer is actually A, right? Okay, if I do the math, what happens? I just have to multiply 20 times 1.609, right? At the bottom is all 1. So it will be pretty much like 32.2 kilometer per hour. So the right answer should be A, right? Okay. Oops. Now if I look at this one at the bottom, can you tell what will be the right units at the end? Because some of the units might get cancelled, right? You see here, mile and miles get cancelled, and then hour and hour get cancelled, right? So you'll be left with what? Kilometer per minute. Because the kilometer will be left at the numerator and the minute will be left at the denominator. So it will be kilometer per minute. So the right answer should be C, right? All right. Let's try it here. I think we already know the unit, right? But if you do the math, can anyone try and see how much is the answer? 40 times 1.609 over 60 is 1.07, or what is that? Or 1.77? 1.77? 1.07, I'm sorry, 1.07 kilometer per minute. Right answer is B, right? All right. What will be the unit for this question? So gallon and gallon get cancelled, quart and quart get cancelled, pint and pint get cancelled. So you'll be left with only ounce, right? So the right answer is D, because you'll be cancelling every unit except ounce. Okay. Now 20 gallons is how many ounce? Because you know already the units. So all you have to do is just 20 times 4 times 2 times 16, right? What is the answer? Answer A. Right answer is 2,560 ounce. If you multiply these 4 numbers, because at the bottom everything is 1, so you don't have to divide by anything. So. All right. Now we'll be still looking at a couple of more quizzes along this line, but before that, we want to see the one-dimensional metric conversion line. Okay, this is the base unit. This is called the metric conversion line, because if you go to your left, you get the higher units called deca, hecto, kilo, right? Deca is 10 to the power 1, hecto is 10 square, kilo is 10 to the power cube, because these are some sort of prefixes, okay? Because we sometimes say what? Decameter, hectometer, okay? Or if I go to the right side, decimeter, centimeter, those are smaller units, Okay, because think about this: the meter is already there. Okay, but we use a prefix. We say kilometer, right? That means 1,000. You know, we just multiply it by 1,000, right? Similarly, we have several other meters, and you know, we have some relations based on their weight factors, right? Okay, these are some, you know, I think you can always find it in your question always, like, but make sure you look at which one is what. If it is D, deca, H means hecto. We already know the centimeters, right? But there are decimeters, okay? And there are decameters that are a little bit different. So that's why when we write decameter, we just use dk. If it is decimeter, we just use only D. So that's something, yeah. So let's try some quiz questions again. 5,000 meter, so we are trying to convert it to kilometer, right? Which might be the right conversion factor? Okay, C is right, yeah, sure. So it will be 5 kilometer, right? If I do the math. So C is the right answer. How about this? 5 meter equals to millimeter. How many millimeter? Which is the right conversion factor? Is it B? There is a catch in A. You cannot cancel millimeter and meter, right? Because remember, you have to arrange it such that you cancel out all the units. So B is the right answer because you cancel out the meter and meter. You'll be left with only millimeter, right? And this is also in the right order. 1 meter equals to 1,000 millimeter. Okay, so the B is the right answer. Okay, now how do you add and subtract? Okay, so with the numbers with the units, so denominate numbers are the numbers with the units, because when we have numbers with the unit, we have to learn how to add and subtract them, and we have to be a little bit careful. So we know that we have abstract numbers where we have no units, we can add and subtract with anything. But in case of the denominate numbers, because meaning the numbers with the units, we have to add or subtract with the same units. Meaning you cannot add with like 3 feet plus 4 inches. They have to be in same units. If they are not, then you have to convert them to the same unit before you add or subtract. Okay? So for an example, if you add 3 feet and 7 feet, which is fine, you can just make 10 feet. But how about if you add 3 years and 6 feet? You cannot add it. What you need to do is either you convert everything into yards or you convert everything into feet and then add. So if you convert 3 years to feet, 3 years is actually 9 feet. Because 1 yard is, I think you know how to convert it, right? I'm saying use the conversion factor and then convert it. We have not shown it, but you can just always use the conversion factor and convert it. And then once everything in the feet, you add it, get the sum. Okay? Or you can convert everything into years, because 6 feet equals to 2 years, so you can add 3 plus 2, 5 years. Now most of the time we actually look at the answer, because in PAWS, when you look at the multiple choice, you know exactly whether we want the answer in feet or we want the answer in yard, right? That's how we write the answer. Okay, now for an example, let's say you have 2 yard, 6 feet, 36 inch. We are trying to add all of these. Okay? How can you add? Either you convert everything into inches, right? Or everything into yard. You can do both, right? So this is 2 yard and 6 feet is 2 yard as well, right? And 36 inch is actually 1 yard. So C is actually right. If you convert everything into yard, it will be 5 yard. But if you convert everything into feet, for an example, this will be your 6 feet, this is already 6 feet, and this will be 3 feet, right? So C and D both are the right answer. So your right answer is actually E, right? It depends on which unit you want. So rules of multiplication and division. Multiplication is division is a little bit easier because you don't have to convert the unit, which is good news. But the bad news is you also have to multiply and divide the units in addition to the numbers, because you multiply the numbers or you divide the numbers, you also multiply or divide the units as well, okay? But you don't have to convert at the beginning, okay? So for an example, let's say you are multiplying 3 feet and 6 feet. If you multiply with the abstract number, you are fine. Let's say 2 times 6 feet, because the 2 doesn't have any unit, you are fine, is 6 feet. But let's say you are multiplying both numbers, both numbers with the denominator numbers, okay? Both numbers are denominator numbers. Let's say 3 pounds times 3 feet. Look at this, we are not converting the unit. We are just multiplying the numbers. 3 times 3 is 9, but we are also multiplying the unit. That makes it feet pounds, because we are multiplying feet and pounds, okay? Similarly here, we are dividing 50 pounds by 2-inch square. So 50 divided by 2 is 25, but look at how we are writing the units. We wrote pounds divided by inch square, because you also divide or multiply the unit. And that's why the units get changed at the answer. Okay. For an example here, let's say if we multiply 3 feet times 4 feet times 2 feet. So you are actually multiplying 3 times 4 times 2 is make it 24. But you have 3 feet you multiplied, right? So remember, when you multiply, it's just the basic algebra rule. When you multiply 2 different things, you actually add their power. So for an example, if you look at each of these feet, these are just, if you don't have any power, that means what? There is a power of 1, right? It's like feet to the power 1. We don't write the 1 though. So this is also feet to the power 1, this is also feet to the power 1. All we are doing is to multiply it, we actually add their power. Do you see it? 1 plus 1 plus 1. That makes it feet cube. Right? Because when you multiply, remember, you add their power. Similarly here, when you divide, you actually subtract the powers. For an example, let's say you were dividing 12 feet cube by 2 feet square. So you first divide the number 12 by 2, which is easy, just 6. But look at how we are dealing with the power. Division is subtraction. Multiplication is addition. So we just subtract the second power from the first power, which makes it just 12 feet. We don't have to write 1, so that's why we just wrote feet, right? Okay, let's try a couple of quiz questions again. So here, what will be the units at the end? Pound per inch, right? Right answer is B, because this inch will be cancelled with, let's say, this one, right? Then you'll be left with only what? Pound at the numerator, inch at the denominator. So the right answer is what? B, right? Right answer is B. How about this one? Just pound. Right answer is D, because inch and inch get cancelled, right? So you'll be left with only pound. Here, C, pound inch square, right? We know the numbers, right? I'm saying once you multiply, you'll know the number, but it's about the units. How about this one? Pound per inch, right? So the right answer is B. Right? Okay. Now let's try the addition with compound units, because many times this happens that you are adding two numbers, two different numbers, but each number has multiple compound units like this. Let's say you are adding 7 hours 36 minutes 29 seconds and 17 hours 27 minutes 37.5 seconds. Because each of these has multiple compound units, right? Now you first align the unit, right, and then add the like units starting from the right side, lowest terms. Now here the lowest term is second, right? So we add these 29 and 35, which makes it 64 seconds. But the catch is this: you know that the 60 second makes a minute, right? So you subtract 60 seconds and make it 4 seconds. But you have 1 minute here, right? Because of this 60 seconds. Same is here. You add 37 plus 27, which makes it 64 minutes. You subtract 60 minutes. Because you know that 60 minutes make an hour, right? Which makes it 1 hour, 4 minutes. And then for the hours, you add 7 plus 17, which makes it 24 hours. But when you finally write it, you write 4 seconds here, and this minute here, and this minute get added, right? Which becomes 5 minutes, and this hour will be added to 24 hours to make like 25 hours, right? It's easy, but you start with the lowest term. Be careful about the. So, for an example here, you start with the inch, right? How much inch you will get? 10 plus 2, 8. Makes it what? 18 inch. How much inch you will write at the bottom? Remember, 12 inch make a feet, right? So it will be only 6 inch then. It will be, because 18 inch means what? 1 feet 6 inch, right? So the right answer is D. Right? It's actually 6 inch. Now we plug the 6, we already wrote the 6 inch. Now how many feet I have here? We have 3,000 feet here, 4,000, 7,000 feet, and remember we got a feet from in this side, right? So that's actually 7,001 feet. But how many feet I will be writing here? Don't forget that 5,280 feet makes a mile. So you have 7,000 feet, and then you got a 1 feet from the right side, right? And then, so that makes it 7,001 feet, but you'll be subtracting 5,280 feet, because 5,280 feet makes a mile. So you will be left with 1,721 feet, right? Which is B. Regarding the miles, how many miles you have? 10 miles, right? Because you got 9 miles, and then remember you got 1 mile from the feet column. So your miles is 10 miles, right? So the right answer is A. Oops. Now let's try a couple of subtractions with the compound units. Let's say we have to subtract 3 years 2 feet from 5 years 1 feet. So what is the catch here? The catch is this is 1 feet and this is 4 feet. You cannot subtract 4 feet from 1 feet. So you pretty much want to borrow 1 feet from here. So, oh, I'm sorry, this is 1 feet, and at the bottom you have 2 feet. So you cannot subtract it. So what you do is you actually borrow one yard from the next column. This makes it to, decrease it down to 4 years, whereas this becomes 3 feet plus 1 feet, because one yard equal to 3 feet, right? Which makes it 4 yards. So I'm saying 4 feet. Now it's easy, right? 4 feet minus 2 feet equals to 2 feet. Regarding the yard column, you just subtract 3 yards from 4 yards, which makes it 1 yard. So the idea is you start with the lowest term. If you cannot subtract, you actually borrow from the next higher unit. You borrow one and then convert it and add the, because see, I borrowed 1 yard, but I added 3 feet because I know that 1 yard is equals to 3 feet, right? And then I do the subtraction and then I got the resulting unit. We can try an example for sure, right? So for an example, here, let's say this is given 1 gallon equals to 4 quart. Now here, you cannot subtract 3 quart from 2 quart, right? So obviously you will be borrowing 1 gallon from here. That will decrease it down to 4 gallon. Now how many quart you will have here? 6 quart, right? Because you already have 2 quart, and just for 1 gallon you got another 4 quart. So this becomes 6 quart here. So the right answer is C. Any question? Okay. Now if we do the subtraction, this is what? 6 quart minus 3 quart, so it will be 3 quart here. And this will be 4 gallon minus 2 gallon, this will be 2 gallon here, right? 2 gallon, 3 quart. So the right answer is A, right? A. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, so I cannot subtract it, so I'll be borrowing 1 from 1 gallon, and this becomes 5 quart, right? So this will be 9 gallon, 5 quart, right? We already had 1 quart, so I just borrowed 1 gallon, so that makes 5 quart. So the right answer is what? D. Any question? Is that D? Okay, D, right? Now once we have it, we do the subtraction, and then we get what? 6 gallon, 3 quart, right? Which is D again, last one. Okay. Now rules for the multiplication with the compound units. If I have multiple compound units, and then how do I multiply? Now to multiply by an abstract number is easy. For an example, if I multiply these by 2, it's actually very easy. All I'm doing is just multiplying each one 4 years, 4 feet, and then 9.5 is 19 inch. And then I'll check how can I convert, because I can convert 4 feet to 1 yard, 1 feet, right? And I can also convert 19 inch equals to 1 feet, 7 inch. And then I'll be adding appropriately. So this is my inch then. And then what I'm doing is I'm writing 19 feet here, 19 inch here, so it's actually 1 inch. And then feet and feet get added, okay? Years and years get added. So I'll be left with 5 years, 2 feet, 7 inch. Because all you have to be careful is once you multiply, it's possible that some of the units you can break it down. For an example, if it is like 4 years, 4 feet, you know that's actually 1 feet, 1 yard, right? I'm saying 1 yard, 1 feet. So that yard will go to year, I'm saying that yard will be added to the 4 yard, right? So those kind of things. In case of division, let's look at a division here. In case of division, for an example, this is an example for division. So let's say we divide 5 years, 2 feet, 7 inch by 2. Okay. So we actually start with the highest term. Be careful about that. In case of division, we start dividing the highest term first. So we are dividing, let's say, 5 years first. So if I divide 5 years, I get 2 years, and I have a remainder of 1 year, right? We're dividing just like the third grader, okay? So if you divide, let's say, 5 by 2, 2 times 2 is 4, and then you have a remainder of 1, right? Don't get a fraction. I'm saying just keep the remainder as it is. So you get 2 years, and you get 1 year at the remainder. Now you can see that 1 cannot be divided by 2, right? 1 year. So what you do is you actually convert the 1 year to feet. Now your feet becomes, you had 2 feet here. Now that feet is added with the new 3 feet, which makes it 5 feet. Meaning, whatever the remainder you have, you convert it to the next lower term, okay, and add it to the lower term, right? Now you have 5 feet. Again, you divide it by 2. You have 2 feet and remainder 1 feet. Now 1 feet cannot be divided by 2. So again, I converted to feet to inch, next lower term, right? And then I added 7 inch plus 19 feet, 12 feet, which makes it 19 inch. I divide 19 inch by 2, but this time I have a remainder 1, but I convert it to 9.5 because I don't have any lower term left, right? Because that is the lowest term I have. So I just make a fraction out of it. So 19 by 2, which is 9.5 inch. So my answer is 2 years, 2 feet, 9.5 inch. Now, if you want, you can double check by multiplying it by 2 to get the answer, to get the question back. I'm saying, you know, since you divided, you can always double check by multiplying by 2. So here is another example. So you start from the 7 years again. If you divide the 7 years by 3, you get 2 years. I'm saying, yeah, so, and then you have 1 year remainder, which is converted to feet. Your total feet becomes 5 feet. Again, you divide the feet by 3, 5 feet by 3. Your remainder is 2 feet. Again, you convert it to inch, and then you divide, which is 24 inch, right? 2 feet equals to, because 1 feet equals to 12 inch. You divide it by 8, that makes it 8 inch. I'm saying divided by 3, which makes it 8 inch. So that's how you get your answer, 2 years, 1 feet, 8 inch. Any question here? So we'll check a couple of quiz questions then. We're dividing 8 gallon 1 quart by 2. So you divide 8 by 2, that becomes 4 gallon. Okay, and then 1 quart by 2, that makes it half quart, right? So the right answer is A. So, but if I want to reduce it to the smallest term, okay, so your answer is 4 gallon half quart, but you see here I can convert it to quart to pint, because half quart means 1 pint, right? So that becomes 4 gallon 1 pint, right? So right answer is B. If I convert it to the lower term, okay, since this is half, so right answer is B. Okay, now let's say if I have to divide 15 gallon by 2, 15 gallon 2 quart by 2. Can you try and see whether, what will be the answer? Let me give a pause here. So the right answer is C, because you divide 15 gallon by 2, which makes it 7 gallon, and then you have a remainder of 1 gallon. You convert the 1 gallon to quart, which makes it 6 quart, because you have 1 gallon equals to 4 quart, you have 2 quart. Now you divide 6 quart by 2, which makes it 3 quart. So the right answer is C, 7 gallon 3 quart. Now again, this is converting compound in single unit, okay, to, let's say you convert to a single unit. So let's say you change 7 yard, 15 feet, 11 inch to yard. So you can do it separately. For an example, you convert 5 feet to yard, right? Use the conversion factor. Remember, this is the conversion factor between yard and feet. Convert it to yard, right? And then inch, You use the conversion factor to convert it to yard, and then you already have 7 in yards, so you add everything and then make everything yard. So that means you have something in compound unit, you change it to a single unit. See what I'm saying? Change it to a single unit. This is about the time zones, because a lot of times we also convert between time zones, especially when we also use like military time, right? And we also change it when we travel, right, across different timing zones. So for an example, midnight is 0000 hours, right, in military time. They actually go by 24 hours. So midday, meaning the noon, is 12:00 hours, and then after passing the noon, they actually count the hours up to 2400. That means 1 o'clock means what, 1300. Yeah, 2 o'clock is what, 14, 15. They go all the way up to, like midnight. So the last time is what, 23:59, and then they again reset to 0000, right? Okay. So if we have to convert a standard clock time to military time, we add 12 hours to hours from 1 p.m. to midnight, right? If it is p.m. Okay. And then convert from the military time to standard clock hours, we subtract 12 hours from hours of 1300 or greater, right? So, yeah. So for an example, if it is 21 hour 15 minutes, we subtract 12 hours and make it this, and make sure we also put PM there, right, in our standard time. Okay. That's all we have from chapter 7, units of measure, right? But we also want to go to the quiz section and try our homework for chapter 7. Okay.